What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Money Show. As you can see, we playing co-host Hot Potato. You know, I held it down a couple weeks ago. Then it was me and Jacqueline last week. Now the boys got it. It's me and Carter this week. Carter, what's going on, bro? How you living, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Happy to be back. I missed the last episode. So I appreciate y'all holding it down without a brother, but I'm coming with the energy today. I'm going to remind the people while they really listen to the show. So let's get it.
It wouldn't be Carter if he didn't come with the confidence. Confidence. Gotta love it. But nah, man, so we are in April as of this recording. My birthday is tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to the boy. You know what I'm saying? Another year wiser, you know what I'm saying, in the game. So Carter convinced me to go ahead and pull the trigger on a birthday giveaway, so I can help y'all right on my birthday. I can give y'all a gift, and so hopefully
y'all being selfish on your birthday, bro.
Exactly. So hopefully y'all took advantage of that, man. It's a crazy bundle. I'm sure by the time you listen to this, unfortunately, it will no longer be live. But somehow there's some arbitrary link out there, and you found it. Kudos to you, because the bundle was fire. But anyway, man, Carter, what you decided the topic for today? So what are we talking about today on the Melanin Money Show?
Yeah, man. So this tweets, it was more of a reel went out with Morgan Freeman, man, and he was talking to someone about. I guess he was asked the question that, does racism still have a lot to do with the wealth gap? And like, he didn't hesitate at all. His immediate answer was no. Like, he cut him like, no, it has nothing to do. And he was just so adamant about, in this day and age in 2022, that racism is no longer a factor in the wealth gap. And his argument was like, look at me, look at other people. Like, we can do it. Other people can do it too. So I figured, it was a great topic. And we posted on the Melanin Money page. We got a lot of comments about it. So I figured, why not do a podcast episode about it, giving the people our opinion on this topic, which I think is controversial, but I also think is just real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So the first thing I want to say on this topic is, like, I think, Black people do have to give themselves a level of grace, because the analogy I always like to use is, like, imagine being running a mile on a track. And I think if on a standard track, it's 4 laps around the track, right? So in this example, every lap would be 100 years, right? So imagine someone having 3 or almost dang near 4 laps up on you, and you still find a way to still even be in the race, right? And actually beating some people along the race, right? And that's kind of the equivalent of what racism, was in our country. They had a 400-year head start. And so I know there's so many things that we feel like we should be doing different. We should be further along. And to a degree, I agree with some of those sentiments, but, like, give yourself a pat on the back. Like, there should be no reason. I mean, no disrespect to my, Caucasian counterparts, but there should be no reason why we're beating any of y'all. Like, how do you a 400-year head start? You know what I'm saying? And I laughed, you know what I'm saying? That make no sense.
You feel my breath on your ear, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the preface is, give yourself some grace, give yourself some credit. Obviously, there's plenty of things we could do to improve and continue to level up, but we've come a long way. First thing. Now, Carter, I think the first point you wanted to address was, giving some context to back in the day racism versus today racism. So what were your thoughts on that point?
Yeah. So again, I think to give context to this argument is very needed and is vital, because, even, 50 or 60 years ago in the 1950s, racism was a lot different than it was now. Like, not using the same bathrooms, can't work at the same job, lack of opportunities. And I think that it's a lot different now. Racism still exists, don't get me wrong, but it's not as in your face as it used to be. It's not, we don't have logos outside of stores saying you can't come in here, right? So it's definitely varied over the years. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that, the question is not, did racism have a play in it? It's that today, year 2022, with decentralized media, decentralized currency, all these new attributes that we have in the world today, does the wealth gap still I'm sorry, does racism still have a huge play on the wealth gap today, right? So I want to give that context because, again, when my parents were alive, they had a way harder uphill battle than we have today, right? But there's still racism, but in my opinion, I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. So I want to give that context, let people know that, because again, I think the episode is gonna have a lot of comments about yay or nay. I want to give people like the context that we're talking about today in 2022. How much does racism play in the wealth gap? And I can start with my opinion, and then you can chime in. Sound good?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So here's my thing, right? So my short answer is yes, but how much is the question I'm asking, right? Like, yes, racism is still prevalent today. We still see it every day, right? But how much does it play in the wealth gap today? And me, the person that I am, the person that came from the South Side of Chicago, lost both his parents, and still was able to kind of make something of himself. I have low tolerance for excuses. I'm very, very empathetic, but one quote I live by is, life is not about what happens to you, it's about, how you respond, right, to what happens to you. We'll talk about a little bit more of that, in a minute when we talk about, is it actually, a real thing? But my answer is yes, but like how much, right? Like, I don't think it's stopping people as much as they think it is, right? I think it is prevalent in certain instances, it is, but like, I don't think it's as big as people say it is, because when you look at people like, LeBron, Jay-Z or Will Smith, like all these people that in their story, they kind of came from nothing, but made something of themselves. That's your proof that it's possible. And for me, as a Black man in America, all I need to see is one person do it. That's all I need. If one person was able to do it, I know that it's possible. And I got to ask myself the question, am I willing to go through the hurdles, the falls, the tribulations that it takes for that? But once you see that it's possible for one person that came from nothing and made themselves out of something, why not you? Why can't you do it? Right? So I think it's relevant, but I think people are placing a lot more emphasis than needs to be on the race card and when it comes to wealth today.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And I think to those that will rebuttal that, they'll talk about the systemic, oppression and things that still exist, and just the constant uphill battle where, like, if I put in the same amount of effort as a white person, that it's naturally going to be easier for them, which that's fair, right? But at some point it becomes a level of awareness, and then you just have to adapt. For example, right, like me and Carter were joking about, getting our summer bodies right before the call, right? And it's like, it's no secret that I have had a spinal surgery where I have a metal rods and screws that replace part of my spine that's still there, have limitations on certain things that I can do in the gym, but you wouldn't know looking at me, and you wouldn't know because I don't talk about it. Because here's the thing, there's this thing that I coined actually during that season when I went through that, called the slippery slope of justification. Here's what I mean by that. If when I first met Carter and I was, let's say, out of shape, wasn't fit. Now, granted, I don't know if we would have vibed the same way, because we kind of vibed because we saw each other. It was like, yo, like you like another version of me, right? But let's just say Carter, we still vibe, we were still homies. And I told him this story. It's like, hey man, I know I'm a financial advisor, but man, a few years ago, I had this crazy surgery, man. I don't really work out because I got this back pain. Sometimes I don't sleep that well. And that's why I kind of look like I look, man. I love that you're in shape. I used to be in shape, man, but it's hard for me to work out now, right? From a justification standpoint, if someone saw what I went through, they'd be like, dang, man, I get it, man. Like, I can't even knock your hustle. There's people who are fully healthy and they don't take full advantage of the opportunities that they have. So, if you're not working out, I get it, bro. It's tough. Like, people would sit with me in that justification. The problem is, who is stuck with the life that is associated with that justification? Me. You see what I'm saying? So like, while they're agreeing me and pat me on my back and drying my tears, right? The reality is they get to go on and live their life, and I'm stuck with whatever justification that I settle for. So no one ever said that the justification isn't true, right? We're not saying that racism is gone. We're not saying that it's not a real thing. The reality is it's still your life. So it's almost like if you're swimming with ankle weights on, is it unfair that another person in another lane doesn't have those ankle weights? No, it's not. It's not fair. But the reality is, are you going to drown or are you going to swim to the other side? Like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And so that's the way I think about it. I know people are going to hear this and think like, oh my gosh, you guys are so out of touch now because you're successful entrepreneurs and you don't get it. And I understand. I empathize with that. But the reality is Carter has gone through a lot of challenges in his life. I've gone through a lot of tremendous challenges in my life. And we could absolutely, hang our hat on that and say, this is why we weren't successful. This is why we failed. We chose otherwise. And we just firmly believe and have that much belief in you and whoever's listening and disagrees with this, that you can do the same thing.
Yeah. And I love everything you said, man. And because I think it's so true. And I want to piggyback off of it. Like, I want to put my empathetic hat on, right? I'm going through therapy. I'm becoming a more empathetic person and touching my emotions. Let's just say that you're right? Racism has a huge emphasis on the wealth gap today. And I come to you and say, you're right. It's their fault. The way America is set up is not fair. You're 400 years behind. You shouldn't have to work as hard to be successful, to be wealthy and all that. And I empathize with you. Mm-hmm. Now what? Right? Like, I'm hugging you and I'm talking on your shoulder, you're crying. But like, my thing is, now what? What are you going to do? Right? If you sit in that, my biggest thing about life right now, and I think everybody should be searching for this, is getting control, right? Mm-hmm. If I empathize with you like that, you have no control of the situation. You're gonna sit there and then you'll go to work tomorrow and then you're gonna be sad, and you're gonna be upset, but you're gonna feel justified because you know what? It's not fair. Right. And my thing I want people to look at it is like, yeah, it's not fair, but so what? Because like, what are you gonna do about it? Right. If you are, to your basketball analogy, if you grow up and you 5'2", bro, you 5'2", that's it. It's some people that's 6'5", but like, I'm sorry, like, if that's not your cards, are you going to just not live the life because you 5'2", or are you going to get in the gym, learn how to jump and figure it out? Right. So, I want to encourage everyone, especially our people, that we have to get out of this victim mindset, because the victim mindset doesn't have any positivity, or it's not going to help you in any way. Even like, I was watching the Kanye West documentary again last night, and he was just like, man, like, how long we gonna keep operating under this 40 acres and a mule mindset? Like, seriously, like, they owe it to us, but if they don't give it, what's up? You know what I'm saying? What are you gonna do? So again, I want all y'all to start, if you can, get in the mindset of like, life is not about what happens to you, it's about what you're going to do about it. And you can't do anything about it when you're in the victim mindset.
That's a fact. You cannot do anything about it when you're in the victim mindset. And so, to the point, right, how much does it play into our success or the wealth gap? Today. Again, the key context is today, not the impact that it's had over the years and the compounding effect and the residual impact. Because that's, again, I know y'all rebuttals, right? What about the residual impact? What about red line? Like, I know we're talking about today, right? And focusing on what we actually have the power to change. Because when you focus on things you can't control, then you're literally wasting your time, right? So we're talking about, there's high school kids who are making six figures flipping NFTs, right?
Facts.
So the question becomes, is race a factor? I mean, people can sell digital products online, right? And the beautiful thing about the internet, or the economy in general, is that the color is not black or white, it's green. And if you have something of value that someone wants, if they want it, they don't care who it's coming from. You might have some people that are so gung-ho on like sticking to their guns, they're just that racist, where like, I need that, and I'm going to personally suffer because Carter is the best CPA that ever lived, but I refuse to buy his ebook. There's a select few people in the population that are like that. But for the vast majority, they're going to tap in because it's like, hey, at the end of the day, I might not even like him, but I like his stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what you got to realize. It's like, we're living in an era where, I think Gary Vee posted a video about this like yesterday that I saw. It's like, you think you're experiencing something crazy now with the great resignation. People are like, I'm not standing for that. I'm not going back to work because, they got a taste of what it's like to have an autonomous lifestyle and, kind of work from home. the next generation behind them they're not even applying, right? So forget the Great Resignation. These people aren't even going to apply for the BS job. And you know why? It's because of so much opportunity and how much control we all have. Carter used the example of decentralization, right? That's the whole thought process. A lot of racism existed because of the concentration of power, right? This podcast is an example. 20 years ago, do you know how hard it would have been to get our content distributed at scale? There was gatekeepers. That's why in the music industry, right, people go independent, because now they know they don't have to rely on the labels. So when those systems of oppression, i.e. concentrated sources of power, get broken down, AKA decentralized, the effect of those institutions of power start to diminish, right? Doesn't mean that it's gone completely, but it means it's a whole lot easier than it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Big facts, big facts. And I think we're living in the time of highest opportunity, right? We got, people from India coming over and making NFTs and becoming millionaires. The color is green. It's not brown, white, black, yellow. The color is green. We have so much opportunity. Right. So for you to even be like still sulking on that, I think you're wasting mental capacity that could be used in other ways, right? We get 14-year-old kids at home day trading. You don't even have to see the light of day. The market doesn't care what color you are. Let me tell you something. The market does not care what color you are. And here's something I want to say, man, because I really, once I heard this metaphor, man, it just really stuck with me. And Wall Street Trapper said it, man. Shout out to him. And, so many of us, we say, hey, man, like, why don't they teach us about money? Like, the reason we're behind the wealth gap is because they never taught us about money. They made it illegal for us to learn about how money works and all that. And people are like, why didn't they teach us this? And the question needs to not be, why didn't they teach us this? The question needs to be, why would they, right? Like, why would they teach us this? And the analogy he used was, if the lion is the king of the jungle, he would never tell a gazelle or a zebra how to get away. Because if he did, what bro gonna eat? If he tell all his, predators, prey how you gonna get away, how you gonna eat? So the financial predators, right? Our Caucasian counterparts that had a lot of money that didn't want to teach us about financial literacy. Why would they teach us? Because we're the financial prey. If they taught us how to get away, then who would they feed off on? Right? That's a great analogy for you to see, like, why didn't they teach us that? But now here's my question. They can't stop you from learning now. Right? Like, now it's like, with the internet, YouTube University, all these courses, curriculums, like, it's, you can get the information now. My question is, why aren't you going to seek out the information that was once illegal? Isn't it crazy? I'm trying not to go on a rant here. How they told us we couldn't read, and our forefathers was like going out their way to try to find a book, getting whipped or whatever for books or whatever. Right. Now we got freedom to read. Motherfuckers not reading, right? We got freedom to read. People not reading. It's crazy to me. So I think that we need to take, again, ownership and control, because now we have the freedom to do all the things that we couldn't do back in the day. But again, the sad majority of us are still not taking advantage of those opportunities. Yeah, and here's what that makes me think of, right? So it's almost like when they say, if you go into a new company or a new organization, you might be able to see how things could be different. You might see that there's some inefficiencies, things could be operating better, et cetera. But you don't go in and change the system before you do everything that you can, right, when you step into the system. So what I mean by that is, you can't complain about the suppression or the powers and impact of racism if you aren't even taking advantage of all the things that you could do, right, with or without the impact of racism. If you're already, not to Carter's point, not taking advantage of reading, and you're Netflixing all the time, you're on social media all the time, right? You're BS and pissing your time away, not going to the gym, oversleeping, snoozing, not eating right, whatever. If you're already, you don't even deserve the right to complain, because you haven't exhausted everything that you have the power to control. Right now, if you've exhausted all that, you did everything right? You did everything right. You're like, yo, I'm busting my butt and I did everything right, and I'm still kind of blocked out from getting to that next level. Then shout a little bit if you need to. But I guarantee, if you spend all your effort and energy exhausting yourself on the things you have control over, number one, you won't have time to complain.
first and foremost. And number two, you'll have way more results than you have right now that you probably won't even care. Right? People ask me all the time. I used to like be a little weary about it because I was like, I don't want to feel like I'm out of touch. People would ask me about politics. They would ask me about who's in office and who's running this. And a lot of times I honestly didn't have a real answer because I didn't give a shit because I knew this. I knew, and that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way.
No, I'm here for it, bro. I am here.
It didn't matter who was in that White House. It didn't matter who was on that Senate seat. I'm still getting to it. And that's a fact, right? And I'm gonna spend more of my energy focusing on the things that I actually can control versus the illusions and the distractions that they give us, right? And wasting energy on that, because that's how I can make change. If I focus on what policy is going to send me my $1,400 stimulus check, or I can focus on my own business, right? And create my own damn stimulus, right? I can take that money and then do what I want to do to impact my life or impact the other people and create change versus wasting energy on waiting for another man or woman or policyholder to do something, and I'm holding my breath. So now I don't care. They might ask me about certain things in I don't know, bro. I haven't been keeping up. Sorry.
Yeah, and let me just stop the naysayers. He's not saying he's not going to vote. He's not saying he's going. I know people will jump on that, but look, like what he's saying is that he's spending more time focusing on what he can control than what he can't control, because again, like once you take ownership of one area of your life, you start taking ownership of every other area of your life, right? All right, I'm hurt. I can work out limited. I'm gonna figure it out, right? All right, I'm financially unstable. I'm gonna figure it out. All right, I'm an employee. I want to be a business owner. I'm gonna figure it out. Once you start realizing how much you can control, you don't have time to think about what you can't control because there's so much that needs to be focused on what you can do. I think this is a great segue because I know I wanted to pose the question. Now that we kind of gave our opinion on what we think the race plays in wealth gap, like what is some like legitimate advice that we can give to people to help them get ahead, right? What could they do to help get ahead? Now that we know we have our answers, whether they agree with it or not, what can you do to get ahead? Because let me tell you something, whether it's racism is prevalent up to wealth gap or not, you better still have a plan to figure it out, whether it is or it isn't. So I'm gonna give you some pieces of advice that I think is important. Obviously, I'm gonna let George weigh in on it. But number one, man, like exhaust all the resources that you have. Like you need to start replacing entertainment with education. They stopped our forefathers from reading, listening to books, getting an education. We can do whatever we want, and we don't have to pay an institution to do it anymore, right? So they have this one saying that it hurts me, but it's kind of true. It is that if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book. And it sucks that I can even say that's kind of true because I know so many people that just don't read, right? So I think one of the first things you can do is to get informed. The more information you have, the more you learn, the more you earn. So grab a book, grab a podcast, grab a favorite YouTube channel, grab a course, do something to get informed, because the information changes situations. You don't have to be in that same situation, but you will be if you don't have the information to get out of that situation. So that's my first thing would be to get informed and see how much you actually can control.
Yeah, not facts. My thing would be is learn a high income, high valued skill set that is highly sought after. And the reason being is because it goes back to our early point is that if you have what somebody needs, color ain't really gonna matter, right? If they gotta go through you to get it, then what are they gonna do? You follow what I'm saying? Even if they wanna be racist, they're gonna have to suppress it because they need you. So become that guy, become that girl, man or woman, in your respective lane, in your industry, because I guarantee you, right, at least economically, right, that's gonna have a substantial impact on your life in terms of what you'll be able to do. Now, here's this funny thing I saw. There was this white guy, as a matter of fact, he was weighing in on this topic. You might have saw the card. It was like a TikTok. It's like, what's one thing that Black people can do to completely change the landscape of racism, right? And he was like, if every Black person had $250,000 of life insurance, right, he guarantees that there would be no more wrongful deaths, right, on the hands of like lawmakers or cops, because those insurance companies with those deep pockets, they're like, listen, y'all better quit playing around. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all costing us some money. So here's the thing. we're not trying to make it all about money. We're just saying that, like, at the end of the day, that's what they care about, right? So it's like people that are in power, racism was always economical, which is why they decided to do integration, right, after segregation, because it was like, we literally losing money by not letting them shop here. It wasn't because they wanted to start partying and hanging out with us because they knew we could dance. They were losing money. So when you understand that, it's like, how can I hit them in the pockets, right? Or how can I, be so valuable that I'm a necessity and they can't disrespect me, right? So you got to get the money, right? So you get the money by having a high income skill set, and you get the money by just, being a person of value. So that's important. Again, I know some people are going to be like, it's not just about the money. All I'm saying is, you know how they say America runs on Dunkin'? Nah, American runs on the dollar, right? American runs on money.
Big facts. Big facts.
You know what I mean?
It's not all economical, but economics play a huge part in that, because when you have the money, you can help make decisions. You can put your place in the seats where you can go make decisions. That's why Jay-Z is able to step in on Colin Kaepernick's case. He's able to step in on getting Kodak out of jail. Because once you have the money and influence, you can actually step in and start making a legit difference from the top down. And, one of the things that we can do as Black people is that if we grow our wealth and we grow how much that our wealth represents, to America's wealth, they will have to start respecting us. If we get to 50%, they're like, oh, well, look, we got to really start respecting their decisions. So one of the things that I think can help with that is we need to understand how money works, right? I'm not saying you're going to make all the money in the world, but understand how money works. If you make $1, save some of it, right? Invest some of it. How does investing work, right? Because that's what actually changes. So, you taught them to get a high income skill set, which is great. The problem is a lot of people with high income skill sets take that income and blow it, right? So not only learn how to make money, but learn how to manage it. Teach your kids how to manage it, right? Like life insurance is a huge part of it, right? If you die, we don't need to do the whole give me the cash app to pay for the funeral. If somebody in your family dies, you get $1 million. Guess what? Your family, if you know how to manage it, should be set. So I think it's getting money, but also learning how to manage it, through investing and whatever your avenue is. But I think that's equally important on helping us get ahead.
Yeah. And also be the change you want to see. So like we talked about a couple podcast episodes ago about like cancel culture and, what that looks like. And one of the things that Carter brought up is just like, if you have different viewpoints, then, you don't have to tear somebody else down. You can have have your own viewpoint. So from a vantage point of racism or whatever, like if you have a platform, right? Number one, you want to have a level of influence to where your voice matters, right? But like use your voice to create change. You are seeing a shift like the younger generation where they're pushing back on their parents, right? Who may be ignorant to certain things when it comes to racism. And that's because like we're in this era where now they have connections to, people of color, and they're learning and they're connecting with them, and they realize, oh, these are great, cool people, right? There's no need for me to be racist. So like, instead of spending your time talking about what's wrong, just show up authentically, and people are going to like be able to see that, right? And you can use your voice to be able a representation for like, oh no, Black people are it. We've always known that we're it, but sometimes there's people who are just truly ignorant. Like when I went to, Shanghai, you could tell that they had just never seen Black people. You know what I'm saying? When they saw the swag, they was like, yo, I rock with them. You know what I'm saying? Like these Black people are cool. Now, I know, again, some of y'all gonna get on here. Y'all gonna say, well, they love Black culture. They don't love Black people. I get it. I understand. Listen, I got a little spirited a few minutes ago. I'm glad Carter like rebuttal because I don't want y'all to try to cancel me. Like, I'm not saying that voting doesn't matter. I'm not saying politics don't matter. All I'm saying is you have to focus most on what you can control, right? And if you do that, it's going to put you in a position to create change.
Yeah, facts. And let's end this on a good note. On a good note, I think that Black people as a whole is starting to see it, right? I've never been more proud to be a Black person than I am today, because I'm so proud of what my people are doing. Like the financial literacy wave we're on right now is crazy. The entrepreneurship wave we're on right now is crazy. The mindset wave we're on right now is crazy. Like we are really stepping into our own, no longer making excuses, and understanding the power that we have as a people. So like to end this on a great note, like, yeah, racism has a little bit on the wealth gap, but I think most Black people are stopping to care because, again, as the years go by, our parents are getting older and we're stepping into an age where, like, I don't really remember racism like that because I was born in 1991, right? It wasn't like that bad. So now we're starting to let go of all of the, and again, not forgetting, but letting go of all of the change that our parents had to see happen. And we just like, bro, we got to get it. Like all that stuff that happened in the past, we're going to fix it. But we got to go and focus on what we can control, right? Don't look back because we're not going that way. Right. So I think that, right now, like, again, our people are starting to understand it. We're starting to really represent it and we're starting to push forward in a way that maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, when our kids grow up, they gonna know about it, but they're gonna be like, yo, we straight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we gonna figure it out. We don't have this mentality if somebody owes us anything.
Now, here's a devil's advocate perspective as we end off. To those that say those who don't remember their past or know the past are like destined to repeat it or something like that, right? So how do we move forward while still preserving and understanding what happened, but not dwelling and being like beholden to it? Does that make sense? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because like, we want to obviously focus on what we can control. We want to move forward, but I do think there is some merit to this idea that at the end of the day, racism is interwoven into the fabric of this country, right? So how do we make sure that as we move forward, and I have a son and he's, to your point, might not experience the brunt level of racism that, my mom or somebody else experienced. How do we make sure that it's still, the history is preserved and understood and not forgotten, but also not holding us back from moving forward?
That's a great question, man. And only thing I can think of is a quote that really helps me get through questions like this. And the quote goes, I hope I don't butcher it. Let your past be a school, not a club. Get the lessons, but don't linger too long, right? So, we need to look back at our past, see what happened, gain the lessons that we can take from it, right? And leverage those lessons to propel us forward. All right, racism sucks. Our forefathers weren't allowed to read. They got beat for trying to learn. What am I going to do? I'm going to put so much emphasis on learning because they couldn't do it, right? So I think that we can take the bad, get the lessons from it, use that in our lives to propel us forward.
Love it. And that's the great way to end. Well, guys, we know this was a more of a controversial topic, and we don't claim to be all, experts in everything, right? We want to use our voice and our platform to give, thoughtful perspective on certain things. So if you're someone out there and you're an expert in critical race theory, you think we maybe have missed the mark or there needs to be more nuance and perspective, and you think that our listeners could benefit from that, let us know. Hey, we're not opposed to bringing you on the show and kind of open up this can of worms and get a different viewpoint. But hopefully you guys can hear our heart and understand that at the end of the day, when we just zoom out conceptually, what we're saying is we believe that the power resides with you. Despite any circumstances, challenges, racism, whatever, maybe we're just so optimistic that we believe the power resides with you and us, and we believe that anything's possible through action, execution, and intention. Until next time, guys, peace.